Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to do one of the things that I love to do most. That's to part the veil and peek behind the shroud of mystery that hides the secret religion of the ancient brotherhood. You see, they believe that the Western world has too long and fatuously labored under the delusion that a pious and devout disposition fulfills the whole requirement of true religion. Not so, they say. Ancient sagacity knew that piety without intelligence or religion without philosophy was insufficient and even dangerous. It knew that general good intent was not safe from aberrancy, folly, and fanaticism unless it was directed by the highest powers and resources of the mind. And remember always that this is what they believe does not make it true. And the mind itself, they say, had to be fortified with specific knowledge of the nature of the cosmos and of man and the relation between the two. Following the dictum of the sage Hermes Trismegistus that the vice of a soul is ignorance, the virtue of a soul is knowledge, the scriptures of old inculcated the precept that with all man's getting he must first get wisdom and understanding. And these were related to his well-being as health to his navel and marrow to his bones, and would alone give him a crown of eternal life. These things were pronounced more precious than all the things that he could desire. The Council of Illuminati therefore laid down their systems of cosmology and anthropology, which have become, by immemorial tradition, the Bibles of humanity, universally reverenced, and in them were given the ordinances of life, the constitution of the cosmos, the laws governing both nature and mind, and they still constitute the Magna Carta of all human action guided by intelligence. For they were the first institutes embodying the Principia and Fundamenta of all moral behavior, the only true chart and compass to guide human effort in a line of harmony with an overshadowing divine plan of evolution for the cosmos. The corruption and final loss of the basic meaning of these scriptures has been, in the whole of time, they believe, the greatest tragedy in human history. Like Shakespeare's tide, which taken at the flood leads on to fortune, but omitted casts all the rest of life in shoals and quicksands, the wreckage of the esoteric gnosis in the centuries following Plato's day, culminating in the debacle of all philosophical religion about the 3rd century of Christianity's development and ushering in 16 centuries of the Dark Ages, has thrown all religion out of basic relation to true understanding and caused it to breed an endless train of evils, fanaticisms, bigotries, idiosyncrasies, superstitions, wars, and persecutions that more than anything else blacken the record of man's historic struggle toward the light. And if you understand that portion of their philosophy, then you know why they hate Orthodox Jews, fundamentalist Christians, and members of the Nation of Islam. They believe that the most frightful of all historical barbarities owes its incidence directly to the decay of ancient philosophical knowledge and the loss of vision and virtue that would have attended its perpetuation. So what then must be the importance of all of this information that they say restores to the scriptures of ancient wisdom the lost light of their true original meaning? In a very real to them, and direct way, the salvation of culture and a free spirit in the world is contingent upon this restoration of the ancient intelligence to modernity. And thus you see the springing up of the old pagan religions in the New Age movement and in other organizations and movements throughout the world. You see, they believe that for man at this age, he's had new and mighty powers of nature suddenly placed in his hands, but yet he lacks the spiritual poise and sagacity to use them without calamity, the message in the movie 2001. Most strangely, the control of the lower physical, natural, or brute forces by the mind, or reason, was the one central situation primarily and fundamentally dealt with in the sage tomes of antiquity. And to effect that control in a perfect balance and harmony, and to train the reasoning intellect in the divine art of it, was the aim and end of the arcane philosophy which I have revealed to you as the mysteries. Ideology in the Western world has endlessly vacillated back and forth between the cult of the inner spirit and engrossment in objective materialism, while ancient philosophy taught that the true path of evolutionary growth, if you believe in such a thing, was to be trodden by an effort that united the forces of the spirit with those of the world, the lower disciplined by the higher. The whole gist of the esoteric, or hidden, or secret doctrine was the study and mystery of the powers engaged in working out the evolutionary advance so that the aspirant, or initiate, might be able to align his cultural effort in consonance with the requirements of the problem and the end to be achieved. Without this guiding data and this evolutionary perspective, modern man, they believe, is totally at a loss how to focus his endeavor and is unable to point his direction in line with anything more fixed and basic than his next immediate objective of apparent desirability. In other words, they aspire to social engineering. He has neither a knowledge of his origin, a chart of his path, an inventory of his capacities, or a vision of his goal. Hence he travels the long road, still a benighted wanderer without compass. He can but recoil from one mistaken plunge after another, learning sporadic lessons from pain and misfortune, the way that most people learn, the way of the sheeple. The ancient torch that was lighted for his guidance, he has let burn out. You see, this lamp was the body of ancient philosophy. In this critical epoch in the life of the world, this philosophy proclaims afresh the message of what they believe to be the lost truth, the lost word, the lost phallus of Osiris, the lost light, if you will.
Now the ever-burning fire is to a measure probably, at least in one of its degrees, associated with the sun. The sun, this great incandescent light, this symbol of radiance that became warm in summer and in the desert a destroying heat. But the fire and the sun and light, these together, man identified ultimately with his own truest self, his own consciousness, so that fire and light became symbols of consciousness. For man was aware by a kind of invisible light within himself, the light of reason, the light of the mind, but most of all the light of the soul. So the sun became also the symbol of meaningfulness. It became the symbol of true cognition, and fire was the sacred part in man, and as time went on, the fire was associated with the soul. And the soul was this beautiful, radiant, flaming part with an aureole-like existence, and this soul was the light in man. And the fire and the light also came to be representative of enlightenment and of the enlightened.
You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper, and tonight, you're in school.
Words, weapons, sharpen knives, makes you wonder how the other half died. Other half died. Makes you wonder, wonder. Well, here come the man with a look in his eye. He's fed on nothing but full of pride. Look at him go, look at him kick. Makes you wonder how the other half lives. Every single one of us, the devil inside, devil inside, devil inside. Every single one of us, the devil inside. Oh. Here come the world, the look in its eye. Future uncertain, but certainly slight. Look at the faces, listen to the bells. It's hard